Hi, everyone. Welcome to Meaningful Monday. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Lisa. I'm going to Rizzoli.
Right.
Rizzoli. Lisa Rizzoli. I just wanted to get it right. She is a certified Tantra educator in the Sierra Nevada area. And I'm going to let her talk more about what she does because I really don't know and I'm super interested about it. And so I'm going to just hand it over to you. What is it? What is Tantra? What is it that
What
you
is
do? Tantra educator. There's so much, I'm sure.
There is. Well, thank you so much for having me on today and for doing this. It's great. I'm so excited to be here and I'm excited to share with you and your viewers. Like, the more we get this stuff out, the more people know that there's so many different paths to spirituality. And what speaks to one person doesn't speak to all people. So we get to find the one that speaks to us most, like that really speaks to the soul, because that's what's important. When we have that path and we're following that path that speaks to our soul, we have the awakening. We're able to get into that space. So Tantra is really a spiritual path. However, most people know Tantra as the sacred sexuality pieces. And they look at Tantra like, oh, it's that sex thing. What is that? And that is part of it, because Tantra really was established around early, like 300 CE. Around there, I think we have our first texts are showing up in the 400, CE era time frame. So it's an ancient practice. It's an ancient path that we go on. And the reason it came about was because not everybody can be that holy person, that monk that goes up on the mountain and can meditate for hours and hours and hours, especially nowadays. Nowadays, we don't have that much time. We're busy. We're busy people doing lots and lots of things. And that's great. Meditation is part of the tantric path. And we have learned that we can meditate doing anything, everything. So that's what part of this path is also teaching. Why the sexuality pieces came so strong, I believe, is because we have such a stigma on sexuality in our culture and in several cultures around the world. There's so much stigma on sexuality, and we all got here because of sex. If it wasn't for sex, none of us would be here. And yet here it is, this thing of like, sex is bad, sex is this, sex is that, whatever. Sexual energy, not sex, sexual energy is a vehicle we can use to enhance our spiritual awakening. It is one of the most powerful vehicles there is, and perhaps that's why it got put down so hard. Perhaps that's why when the powers that be wanted to control the people, they started doing this. I don't know that part. That's not really my jam, but my jam is, let's use our sexual energies. Let's enhance and live an orgasmic, blissful life. That's what I want to encourage people to do. That's where I'm at in my life. I live an orgasmic, blissful life all the time. Does that mean I walk around and orgasm all the time? No, that's not it. But does that mean that I can look outside? I'm looking out at the tree. Does that mean that I can look at the tree and be orgasmically like, oh my God, it is amazing, and truly, truly feel that in my very soul? So that's part of what Tantra is. It's also this liberation, a liberation of an awakening, right? To live a joyful, happy life. But in order for us to be joyful and happy in our lives, we need to release some of those veils that we've placed on ourselves. Guilt and shame. That's one of the big ones that I work with. Insecurities. Oh my God, the imposter syndrome, right? Those things that we've placed upon ourselves, those veils that keep us from seeing our true self. We want to be able to see our true self. And when we can see our true self, we can see the true self in others, and we realize we're all connected in this space. So that's the down and dirty, quick quick, brief review of what Tantra is. It's so much more than that, but that's the basis of it. And the sacred sexuality is a part of it. You know, let's bring sex back to where it needs to be in the sacred space. And maybe that's not for everybody. That's the whole thing here too. It's not for everybody, but it is, if it is for you, you know it, you feel it. You know, I often say that people come to me when they're curious, they're adventurous, and they're seeking something. They may or may not know what they're seeking, but they're seeking something. And this Tantra is their path. And then they start going down this path. Or maybe they find something else. I don't know. But I like that when they follow my path, because I love my path and I love to share this with more and more people. And that's what I do.
And I love how, so, you know, tying it in, that it's not just about sexuality, it's about meditation, it's about spirituality, and then wrapping that back around, like my personal experience, and especially aging. So when I was young, you know, it was a whole different get down, but now that I'm older and I've been in a long-term relationship for 26 years, the one thing that I've found is the feeling and the sensations, and almost like a power, like a superpower, right? Not in a manipulative way like it used to be, but right, but in a good way. When me and my husband have union together and we make it sacred, it is so amazing. It is so amazing, right? And that's even after 26 years. And there was another point that I wanted to bring up too, and it went into the black hole, and I'm going to spend any time on.
It happens. It happens.
Yes. So like what, because you have an amazing story, which is, you know, I mean, a lot of reasons, just researching you a little bit and getting to know you and having some conversations prior to this interview. I know that you've had an amazing life. You've traveled, you know, part of your practice takes you traveling and doing workshops around the world. What happened for you that all of a sudden you were like, I'm going to do this Tantra education course, and this is, you know, this is where it's going to, like, there had to have been something, you know, in your life that drove you into that direction. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, like I say, all steps lead me to here. And all the steps that you've taken in your life led you to where you are right now. And so it's really important for me to look back on that sometimes and have so much love and gratitude for it, because it led me to here right now. And in this moment, we are all, not just me, but all of us are perfect, whole, and complete in this moment right now. We aspire for other things. We want to do different things. Maybe we want to climb Mount Everest or whatever. So we aspire for those things, but we're still at our core, we're perfect, whole, and complete right now. And so, yeah, my history's like funny. My parents owned a disposal company. It was called Rizzoli Trash Hauling and Recycling. In fact, I posted about it. But anyway, they owned a disposal company. And then after my mom passed away and my dad was running it, at some point he moved up to Washington, and I ended up with the company, and I ended up buying it from him. So after that, I ran this business for about 10 years, right around that point. And then things were starting to shift. You know, I built a building, I built a transfer station, which is a big deal in Reno, especially, but I mean, it's a big deal anywhere. It was a lot of red tape to go through, a lot of, you know, political, oh my God, all the things. Anyway, so we had done that. I got this transfer station permitting, and I did all these great things. And then I quickly outgrew my projection. So I projected we would be in this building for about 15 years. We outgrew it within 3. Just incredible amounts of growth, incredible. And I was like, oh my gosh. So a lot of stuff was happening, a lot of things, you know, shifting and changing. But, you know, it was around the 10-year-ish mark of this. that I realized I had rented or leased property, did all this stuff. And that was all going to go away because the railroad was then doing a trench. And so the property was on. Now all of a sudden I'm thrown into a place of like, I got to make some decisions. And it's going to be a lot of money, like millions of dollars to do what I needed to do. And I would just sit and meditate and think about it, and nothing was feeling right. It just wasn't coming. And I know how this works, because this has always worked for me, is that the right thing comes along at the right time because I'm doing the work that I need to do. And so that's what happened, is a big mega company came in, made me an offer right at the most critical, pivotal point in that business of like, either we're going to go under or we're going to go into mega amounts of debt and try to do this thing, or now we have this offer on the table. So I took the offer. And then I realized that this business was my parents' dream. This wasn't Lisa's dream. This was my parents' dream. And I was fulfilling that, even though they weren't there anymore. I was living their dream. And I decided, who's Lisa? I don't know who I am. I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a businessist, I'm a this, I'm a wife, I'm all these things, but who am I? Who really am I? So I started going on a quest. You know, that was when I really started looking. You know, I'd already been traveling by then, and I traveled right out of high school. That began, my world travels began then. But yeah, I started looking for myself. I started looking for like, who am I? What do I really enjoy? What do I really like? So I started dancing. A friend of mine owned a business called Bodies by Brenda, and she was doing a exotic, what was it? The exotic workout. And it was an amazing workout because it enhanced, it was a way for women to embrace themselves, to have that moment of like, getting sexy with your body, which is what I'm all about. By me, all means, that's me. So I jumped right into this. She was also teaching pole dancing at the time. And so I jumped into that as well. And I became a pole dancer instructor, a pole dance instructor. And that was lovely. I loved it. It was so good. I worked for 2 different studios. I worked for her studio and a studio up at the lake. And it was just, it was phenomenal. It was my passion. I loved the dance. I loved all the moves. We performed. We had a burlesque group that we performed with. I did all of those things. And then one day happened that, I heard that message again. Lisa, you're about to change. Your path is changing. And I was like, okay. And I walked into a Tantra workshop. And I didn't even know it was a Tantra workshop. They called it Divine Feminine. I went in there. It was all women. We did all these practices and we did all these things. And a lot of stuff that they were talking about, I innately knew. Some of the things that they were sharing, I knew as a kid. Some of the things that they were doing, my body already knew about. And I sat there and thought, I'm an educated person. I have a master's degree in anthropology, for gosh sakes. My undergrad's in elementary education, and I've never heard of Tantra. What is this? So I started doing the research. I started looking it up. But I talked to that facilitator, and she said, well, come on board. Come join us. And we're doing this program, and we're doing all this stuff. And the first one was in Hawaii, and thank God, because they usually had them out of the country. And at that time, my son was in Iraq at war, and I would not leave the country. That was my deal, is that while he's at war, I'm in the States. That's it. I've had to change that because that doesn't work for me anymore. But that year it was. And so I was like, well, Hawaii's still the States. So I went to Hawaii and I began my teacher training courses with Divine Feminine Awakened Masculine Institute. Then I moved on. She told me to see Charles Muir. She said, you really need to meet with Charles. And I said, okay. So I met Charles. And the very first time we met, we had this past life connection that we both recognized. He said it a lot more eloquently than I did, but all his words I could just feel in my body. And it was powerful. And he said, we're going to teach together again. And I thought, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're some weird dude. And within a couple of years, I was teaching, and I teach, and I still teach with Source School of Tantra. I do their teacher trainings. I help with that, but I really am taking off on, and I've taken off on my own path. Tantra Sacred Loving is my business, and I share these teachings, workshops, and pujas and one-on-ones and vacation retreats. I do a lot of, I have another business that I call Tantra adventure tours. And I take people on these things because if I'm going to go to another country, I've taken people to Bali twice now. And when I do that, I immerse us in the culture, in the land, in the belief system of that space, because that's what's important to me, is that we step in and we are the stewards of the land, not only our land here, but all land, all of earth. We're all stewards of the earth, and we get to be that as much as we can. So for that one, what's interesting is that the first year I went to Bali, it was for a hoop dance. I was hooping and I had a little business around hooping, and I make hoops and I do all the things, and that was a lot of fun too. But I met a gal who is a Balinese princess. Her great grandfather was one of the last kings, so her father technically was a king, but her great grandfather was there when the Dutch came in, and it all shifted and changed. But yeah, and she is my tour guide, and she is my sister, and I love her dearly. And when I go to Bali, I always bring people with she is the one that helps me develop the plan, develop the course, and create this way for us to really immerse into the culture and not do the touristy things so much. I mean, we do a little bit because everybody wants to see those things, but we really focus on going deeper into the deep layers, because that's where the spirit is. That's where spirit lies, and being in that space. So that's what I like to bring, and I like to share. That's kind of how I got here. Those are things. And along the way, I continue. I'm a person who believes fully in I can never know everything. So I continue on my educational path. Along the way, I'm always taking courses. I'm always doing different things and shifting up and changing up and leveling up and doing all the things that I need to do for me and for my business and for my, for the people that I teach, because the more I know, the more I can teach and I can share.
Nice. So if a person wanted to just maybe individually, or a couple wanted to individually see you, I know you do lots of workshops, and we'll talk more about that, but on an individual level, like if somebody, wanted to explore more, or, take it a step further, or maybe even couples, not to put a negative slant on anything, but, couples who have maybe lost their or I'm sure there's a plethora of examples of people that like call you and say help, or I'm ready to go deeper. What does that look like?
Well, things are shifting. I mean, as the world is shifting and changing, what I was doing before versus what I'm doing today are totally different. I mean, I was doing those one-on-one sessions, and we would come together and I would help them, or we would, or I do them in workshops, or I do different kinds of ways to bring this to the people and to share with that and tap into their own, on a one-on-one, obviously we're going to tap into their specific unique issues. But really, when it comes down to it, all of the issues are the same. And, you know, we have, you know, the little details may be different, but the underlying issues are the same. So we work on those things and we bring that sexual energy back into our awareness. Sexual energy is running through you all the time. You wouldn't be alive and walking about if you didn't have sexual energy running through your body. That's all part of being alive on the planet, is that there is this sexual energy. And people get crazy about the sexual energy because they think it's sex, and that's not what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, we're using this similar words, and so it gets confused and gets you in that space. But it's the energy that we're bringing up from our second chakra and awakening in our body and aliveness. Your sexual energy is your creative life force energy. We're all walking around with creative life force energy. You know, I had a gal contact me yesterday. I sent out a big email about the class that's coming up, and she said, "Oh, I think I'm too old for this." And I'm like, "Honey, you're not too old. I love you." I said, no, you know, it's creative life force energy. It doesn't mean that you're going to go connect with somebody and hook up and do all those things unless you want to, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about our creative life force energy, the energy that goes through our bodies all the time, and just bringing our awareness to it so that we're actually bringing conscious awareness to what's happening inside the body. And that's what most of this is all about, bringing conscious awareness. Can I feel my elbow right now without touching it? Can I feel it? Can I connect with my elbow? Can I really feel my elbow? Because sometimes I can and sometimes I can't.
So I want to debunk something, and I'm sure that you can do this easily, and that is Kamasutra. So the literature, you know, people have put that in a particular box, and a lot of times, again, it has to do with that stigma of it's just sexuality. So, like, can you educate people a little bit on what that literature is? And
yeah, so the Kamasutra actually is a different tradition, coming from a different tradition than what Tantra is. Kamasutra, I'm doing on my page, I'm doing Kamasutra Monday. So I read a chapter of the Kamasutra. I mean, I don't read it on the group. That would be so boring. But I annotate it, and we talk, or I talk about what it is and what they're saying. So if you really read the Kamasutra, yes, absolutely, there's sexual positions. Sweet! And so much more. Because there's a whole structure in the Kamasutra that gives, you know, like, how do you get to this point? Like, the basic understanding of what virtue is, what ethics are, what it means to have integrity, but it's also giving it to you from that time frame. So people get confused if they read this, and they get mad because it's, you know, if we look at it from our standpoint right here, right now, it's very sexist. It is. No problem. It's male dominant. Yes, it is. But I've always learned that every bit of wisdom, there's always a nugget for me. Where's the wisdom in these writings? Where's the wisdom in this translation? And we get to remember that it's a translation that we're reading, not the text that it was written in, not the language that it was written in. So we're probably missing some stuff. And we don't understand that culture of that time. So are we really getting it? Maybe some, but where's that piece, that spiritual principle that just shines through all those words? There's always a spiritual principles that are just woven into it all that can come forth. So that's what I love about reading the Kamasutra and doing this practice online on my group page, because it allows us to tap into that. And I know I get kind of like, he said women can't what? and you know, I mean, my feathers get a little ruffled, right? But the reality is that in that time, in that particular moment, that is what it was. And there's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. And, you know, people want to say, it's all these things, but that's just a distraction. Where's the spiritual principle that's coming through, shining through? So they do talk, this last chapter that I went over was about size, which was funny because in the live that I did, that was the title. Size does matter. Kamasutra says so. And it does, right? I mean, the size of a man has to coincide with the size of a woman. There has to be a good fit. If it's not a good fit, it doesn't work very well. That's just how it is. That's reality, right? Well, you know, and we're all, size doesn't matter. Size does matter because we're all unique individuals, and we're unique on this in the way that our bodies are created and made. And so we don't want to force a square peg in a round hole. That just doesn't work. I mean, you can make it work, but it's not the most efficient, proficient way to do it. So that's what they're talking about in the Kama Sutra, is this type. And he types the different sizes for men and women. And, you know, there's hair, I can't remember them all right now, but anyway, the different sizes, you know, the hair goes with this type of woman, and this type of woman can have this type of man. And but it's not just, and then he does say, you know, it's not just about the size. It's also about the constitution of the person. Like, I mean, are you a person that likes to have sex all the time? Are you a person that is like, okay, once a week, twice a week, you know, whatever it is. But let's bring those two things together. Let's bring some of this stuff together, which is really interesting because it comes back to, like, if we're dating, right? These are important little things to ask about. Like, and we don't. You know, like, how often do you like to have sex? I mean, can you imagine saying that on a date? Well, I can. But most people won't. And those are important things to know. Before you get into a relationship too deeply, it's important to know how this person is. It's important for me to know how I am. Like, what do I like? What do I not like? What are my absolute, nope, don't want to do that? And what are the things like, oh, maybe I'll give that a try and see how it goes. All of those things are so vitally important for a relationship to really work and for a relationship to flourish and thrive. We need to have that communication. We get to have that communication.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love watching on your channel is it's Loving Myself Awake. So if there was a takeaway, like that the viewers could go, oh, I could definitely, you know, that's one thing that I could put into practice, that I could learn to do. How would you explain, you know, what that is for you and how people could actually practice that in their lives?
Okay, so one of the things I really love about what I do is that I take the ancient wisdom and I weave it into modern science, and I bring something that makes sense to us today. So Loving Myself Awake really is a way to awaken your body and your nerve endings. So what are we doing? We're bringing more awareness, more consciousness by physically touching our bodies, ourselves, and bringing love and gratitude. So I like to breathe into my heart with love and gratitude, feel that sensation in my body, and then take it and bring it into the different parts of my body. So usually I start at my feet, and for example, you can play with this and go really big with it, but I'll give you a little example. So I may bring both hands to my feet, one of my foots, my foot, and I do some squeezing. Different modalities are so important in this as well. And when I say modalities, different ways that you can touch yourself. So maybe it's a squeeze or a kneading or a tapping or a slight scratch or a little tickle. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. What you're doing is touching every single part of your skin. And with awareness and consciousness, not just, you know, doing that, but bringing it in like, oh, I love you, shoulder, you're so amazing, you know, and I appreciate you, right? Because the more we appreciate this body that we live in, the more that we can feel the sensations, the more awareness we bring in. So like I said, I start at my foot, I go up my leg, and over every bit and piece of my body that I can touch, my back, my butt, my genitals, and just doing a light touch over all parts of me, so that I'm actually activating and awakening. And maybe, ooh, like here's a lump, right? Like it's my muscle sore right there. And so I'm like, okay, we're gonna stop here and give this a little extra love. This needs little extra love right here, and just, you know, squeeze it a little bit. It's a 5-minute practice if you want it to be, or you can take longer if you want that. It depends on what you're doing. I call it loving myself awake, because I'm loving myself and I'm bringing awakeness to my body. So it doesn't mean I have to do it first thing in the morning. I can do it if that works for me, or anytime during the day. The point of the matter is taking a few minutes of the day. This is where the meditation kind of comes in, doing nice deep inhales and exhales, gently breathing in, feeling into the heart space, feeling the love, feeling the gratitude and the connection, and bringing it to the physical body, and bringing it to the leg, to the arm, to the this. And it gives you a few moments to just do that nice deep breath that we often hear about in meditation, that we're breathing in big inhales and exhales, moving that energy through the body and allowing ourselves to have a moment with this body. It's critical time right now. Right now, we're in such a critical time that we need more of this. We need to touch our bodies ourselves. We're primates. We thrive on touch. Touch gives us so much. And without touch, we are not doing so well. We're in survival mode. We're doing all these other things. We're not thriving. So it doesn't matter if it's another person or not. That's a limiting belief. We don't have to think it can only get this from another person. No, self from the self. When you source from yourself, it's even more powerful. And then you're full. When I come in with another person, I don't want to be on complete empty. I want to be full and alive, full and ready to be in this connection with somebody. I want to feel the fullness. I don't want to be a hungry baby. You know, hungry babies they latch on, they suck and suck and suck and suck and suck, and they take everything from the other person. Whereas the baby that's getting fed on a regular basis isn't doing that. Like, so feed yourself some love here, feed yourself some of that, so that you don't come into partnership from a place of starvation, from a place of neediness. You want to be thriving and alive and awake and just giving, so that you can give more. You can't give from a place of emptiness. Give from a place of fullness.
And I think it's a really great exercise for anybody who struggles with, you know, body image and shame. Just thinking in some respects how just hearing those words, I'm practicing loving myself by taking 5 or 10 minutes out of my day to touch every part of my body. And, you know, depending upon people's beliefs around some of that, they're like, you know, and that immediate withdraw and immediate, you know, because their deep-seated beliefs find a piece of shame in that, you know. But if you
Absolutely.
can let go of some of that and actually practice it, so many benefits, like you're talking about, that not depleting a partner at some point, because you're able to give that sense of love and touch to yourself, and especially
Right.
that in today's times, for sure, right?
For sure. And love your belly. Like, every place that you touch, I love you, belly. You know, and you can get as silly as you want, or you can be totally serious. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're touching the body, you're doing it with love and gratitude, and you're bringing more awakeness into your brain. You're awakening your brain and activating those neural pathways, so that we're connecting with the love and gratitude that we're touching on our body. And the more we do that, the more powerful it is. Part of living an orgasmic, blissful life is finding love and gratitude for this body and touching this body.
Yes. So that being said, I really want to talk about the training or the workshop that you have coming up, and it's coming up quick. So I definitely want to talk about that, and I'll add the comments, the link in the comments below, so
Great.
people can check it out for themselves. But yeah, if you want to talk about what that is.
Awesome. So this is called Explore Your Pelvic Floor. Yoni egg womb wisdom. So this is a yoni egg. I don't know how well we can see it. Let's see. This is a rose quartz egg. This is one of my original eggs that I ever got. And it's a practice for women. So there's a couple things with it. Again, it's August 15th, and I'll be doing it live in my temple room, which is a private group on Facebook. Once you register for the class, I bring you into the temple room. There's already some videos in there that you can get started watching to give you some update on it. And then I'll go live in there on August 15th at 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We'll be doing this practice. Now, if you can't make it at that time, it'll be up for about 24 hours that I'll leave people in that temple space that they can check this out and do that thing. So it's available to you if you need to do it. Two things: you have to have an egg to do it. If you don't have an egg, I sell them, and I'm doing this really cool thing. I did it a couple days ago with a gal. We connected via Zoom. We did this beautiful meditation, and I was her proxy. So I stepped into her space. We connected in that, and then I chose an egg for her, showed her the egg. We did the whole thing, and I mailed it off to her. So if you need an egg, you got to jump on it quick, because mail is slow. It's not as quick as it was. And this is only for the continental US, of course, because that's all I can do right now. There's other options. If you want to order eggs from other places, there's some options, and I can talk to you about that. Just get a hold of me and let me know. But this practice is called the yoni egg. It was originally called jade egg, and it's a very, it comes from Eastern cultures, and primarily in China, with the jade egg practice for the concubines to learn how to use their yonis, their vaginal canals, to really dance on the emperor, if you will, or the royalty, whatever it was. That's where originally it started. But what we know now with science, again, I have studied the pelvic floor, and we learn about the muscles in the pelvic floor. I do a little bit of anatomy in this class. I share a little bit of information around the anatomy. What's important is that, yes, can you have better orgasms? Better, bigger orgasms? Absolutely. Better, more pleasure in your body? Absolutely. You can have more sensation, more awakeness. And as you're moving this energy through your body, again, sexual energy, moving it through our bodies, we develop a deeper connection. We have that spiritual connection, and it's our spiritual path that we're really awakening. Can there be healing? Yes, absolutely. Healing in all different ranges, right? Physical healing, mental healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing, all can come from this practice, because we're awakening that sexual energy. We're awakening our awareness. Actually, the sexual energy is already there, but we're awakening our awareness of our sexual energy and how it flows through our body, and just bringing more sensation in. That's on that side. On the other side, on the physical side, the more that we work our pelvic floor muscles, and the thing is that you got to know how to work them properly. If you squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze all the time, then you can actually cause other problems inside, with incontinence. Incontinence is a big one as we get older, because our muscles they don't work as well. They don't. And so we need to pay attention. We need to enhance that musculature. We need to do these kinds of practices, these kinds of exercises, if you will, that improve the tone of the pelvic floor so that we're not having incontinence as we grow older, so that when you sneeze, whoops, there's that leak of pee, you know, so that that's not happening, that we're able to hold that and be as strong as we were when we were in our 20s. We want to be able to get into our 80s and 90s and not be wearing a diaper. You know, we don't want to have to do those kinds of things or get these surgeries that are out there to put a mesh in or whatever they're doing in the surgeries, because every time you sneeze, again, you know, you have leakage. Or in my case, what I've noticed is when I get really startled, my granddaughter loves to startle me. I notice that there's some leakage that happens when I get really startled, and it's because my pelvic floor isn't as strong. And so I had surgery 2 years ago, so I'm getting back into my yoni egg practices. I'm getting stronger in my yoni egg practices, because last year when she startled me and I had that leakage, I was like, what? No, this isn't, Lisa doesn't do this. And so, God, where's my egg? Where's my egg? And back at the practice I was at. So these are some of the keys that are available in this class. Again, I'll be going over some anatomy. We'll be going over some practices. We'll be going over why these practices work and why they help our bodies, not only on the physical, because I love the physical pieces too, but on the mental, emotional, and spiritual realms.
Nice. So is there any questions that I haven't asked that you think I should?
Wow, that's a hard one. I don't know if I have an answer for that. I think we've covered most of the things. I mean, you know, yeah, I offer all these courses. I do, you know, I have a men's course, I have a couples course, I have women's courses. All of that is coming online more and more and more. My private sessions are, you know, I'm not doing private sessions right now. With what's going on in the world, I'm not willing to take that risk at this particular moment. I'm very cautious in that. I'm a caregiver, and I have somebody that I love and care about that lives in my home that is, you know, high risk. So we have to be aware of those things. So I'm not doing that, but I will do private sessions online, and we can have all those things. But these courses will really get most people going on their practices, get them awakened in and ready for the next level, because that's what we're constantly doing, is leveling up.
Nice. Thank you so much for time and sharing a little bit and kind of breaking some of the ideas that people may have put Tantra in a box somehow or another, and meaning some of that and sharing big pieces of you. I got to know you a lot better in this little time that we spent with each other, and yay. So if you are interested in the training for the yoni egg or intrigued, I'll make sure to have all Lisa's information in the comments. You can reach out to her. She's got a couple different groups on Facebook. I'll link those also so that you can tap into that. And yeah, thank you so much. If one final question before I forget, and that is, what is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote, I was wondering if you're going to ask. If you can dream it, you can do it. And that's by Walt Disney.
Oh, I love Walt Disney.
Me too. I love Disney, and I love Walt for all the beautiful things that he has brought into the world and burst into the world. I'm forever grateful for Disney in our lives.
The happiest place in the world, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
the happiest place on earth. The happiest place on earth, right? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
We're paraphrasing, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you and your time, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too. Have a good one.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.